Chapter 21, Fierce Battle. Since Teacher Wu enjoys teaching others so much, why not let him learn a lesson too? Chen Zhou said coolly. The Lanjia beast's eyes flashed red. Among the armor beast tribe, he was unusually restrained, calm and cautious by nature. But compared to the so-called Heaven's Chosen, childishly indoctrinated elites, he and his kind were veterans of real combat. A trace of disdain crossed his face as he stepped forward. The ground seemed to tremble beneath him. His aura rose like a mountain, pressing down on everyone nearby until they felt their breath catch. Wu Jiankong's expression shifted. He hadn't expected such a formidable ally at Chen Zhou's side. Though the Lanjia beast's presence was not spirit power, its oppressiveness rivaled that of a six-ring spirit emperor. Wu Jiankong grew visibly alert, but maintained an outward calm. Chen Zhou, what do you mean by this? Do you intend to fight inside the academy? His voice remained cold, but carried a newly warned edge. Chen Zhou smirked, playful. Teacher Wu, didn't you just say you wanted to teach me? Now that someone else wants to teach you, are you frightened? Or is Shrek Academy a place that bullies the weak and fears the strong? The insult struck deep. For Wu Jiankong, a product of Shrek Academy's inner court, the school was doctrine and divinity, unchallengeable. His face drained of color. Spirit power coalesced at his fingertips, sending an invisible pressure through the air as if a tempest of battle might break loose at any instant. Today I will teach you a lesson, to remind you of awe, he roared. His spirit, the heavenly frost sword, materialized. He unleashed his spirit emperor cultivation with no reserve. The temperature plunged. Tiny ice crystals formed in the air, as though time itself had chilled. The heavenly frost sword gave off a bone-deep cold, and wherever its edge pointed, space itself seemed strained. This is what I've been waiting for, Chen Zhou thought, grinning. The Lanjia beast met the challenge instantly. His iron fist descended like a meteor. Even before it arrived, the wind howled as air split. A faint blue shimmer wrapped the fist, pure, unadorned power, extreme force and speed, no flashy technique. Wu Jiankong's eyes narrowed, and he swung the heavenly frost sword. Icy sword chi sliced forward. The sword and fist met in a thunderous clash. Sparks of blue light and shards of ice blended into a visible shockwave that rippled outward. Tang Wulin and the others were pushed back, stunned. None had ever seen such ferocity, nor expected the Lanjia beast to lock horns with Wu Jiankong's spirit and subtly gain the advantage. How is this possible? Xie gasped, clutching his stomach, pale with disbelief. He had never imagined Chen Zhou would have a being capable of standing toe-to-toe with a six-ring spirit emperor. Guyue watched with a tightening in her chest. The Lanjia beast's raw power exceeded everything she had anticipated. Its pure force felt world-shaking. Even Wu Jiankong's face darkened. He had assumed his strength would suppress Chen Zhou. He had not expected such a powerful ally. The Lanjia beast's presence pressed on him, and the purity of that power made the heavenly frost sword seem less absolute. Chen Zhou, apologize to Shrek Academy. Wu Jiankong barked, then lashed out again. Heavenly frost slash. Icy chi swept toward the Lanjia beast like a storm. The beast snorted. He had faced ice wolf beasts before. This opponent was just an ice-wielding swordsman. Disdain showed in his eyes. He didn't dodge. He met the slash head-on, swinging his iron fist, the blue light on it flaring like it aimed to shatter the ice itself. Boom! The fist and sword collided, and the resulting blast was even more violent. For the first time, Wu Jiankong was forced back. Ice fractured from the sword's edge. The Lanjia beast regarded him like a hunter watching prey. Wu Jiankong had skill, but this was an opportunity for the beast to learn the fighting style of this world. He was thrilled by the challenge. Stop! Long Hongshu shouted from a distance as he rushed forward at the commotion, but pride would not heed him. Both combatants were too arrogant to yield. Long Hongshu's call faded as sword and fist continued to trade blow after blow. Each strike threw up shards of ice and flashes of blue. The air rang with the impacts. The ground and trees trembled as though the very landscape might crack. Unable to put the beast down, anger burned in Wu Jiankong's eyes. He issued two cold words, Heavenly Ice. A silvery white battle armor flashed into being around him. The icy aura intensified. His spirit power surged beyond its previous bounds. The armor amplified him. His presence rose to a new plane. The frozen air seemed almost tangible. The Heavenly Frost Sword's ice grew denser and its strikes keener, as if each blow could rend space. The Lanjia beast's eyes narrowed. He felt the magnified pressure and took it seriously. But he did not retreat. A hunger for battle lit his face. This was exactly what he craved. "Interesting," he murmured. In a blink, he vanished from one spot and reappeared beside Wu Jiankong, his iron fist streaking toward the other's side. Wu Jiankong reacted with lightning speed and brought the Heavenly Frost Sword to bear. Blade and fist crashed once more in an explosive roar. The visible shockwave rolled outward, but this time it was the Lanjia beast who drove Wu Jiankong back. The six-ring Spirit Emperor staggered, his boots gouging deep marks into the earth. Wu Jiankong's expression soured further. Even with battle armor, he could not suppress this beast. The fight had only just escalated, and both sides now clearly understood the other's strength. The arena hung on the edge of chaos as blue light and frozen wind swirled around the two, unwilling to yield. Chapter 22, East Sea Legion. Although Wu Jiankong had been driven back, Lanjia hadn't gained much either. His right hand was encased in solid ice, the chills searing to the bone. The Lanjia beast slunk back to Chen Zhou's side. Chen Zhou glanced slowly at Tang Wulin and the others, who watched him with disapproval. A flicker of boredom crossed his face. This night's disturbance seemed almost like fate. Was it simply the result of going with the flow? The odd tug he'd felt faded, and Chen Zhou asked softly, "Are you under pressure, Lanjia?" The Lanjia beast's eyes flared red. His right fist clenched, the ice shattered. "My lord, allow me to release my full power." A small smile curved Chen Zhou's lips. A playful light touched his eyes. He nodded, his voice casual. "If you want to play, then go all out, but don't go too far. This is still the academy." The red in the Lanjia beast's eyes deepened as if given permission. His aura spiked into something feral. His combat energy poured out unrestrained. He leaned forward, and the ground beneath his feet cracked, unable to bear the pressure. His right fist rose, blue light searing along it like flame. The air around the fist twisted, as if space itself were being torn. The Lanjia beast fixed his gaze on Wu Jiankong, and a wild grin spread across his face. "Teacher Wu, watch out." His voice rolled like thunder. Before the words died, he had vanished from where he stood. In the next instant, he materialized above Wu Jiankong, iron fist hurtling down with destructive intent. Wu Jiankong's pupils shrank. He felt a crisis he'd never known. The punch's power exceeded his expectations. Even in his armor, he couldn't take it head-on. He reacted at once. The Skyfrost sword flashed up, frost on the blade hardening into an ice wall to try to stop the blow. Boom! The iron fist smashed into the ice wall with earth-shaking force. The wall shattered, frost spraying from the sword's edge. The ground under Wu Jiankong crumbled. The force drove him down, his body bent under the pressure. The Lanjia beast didn't stop. His fist continued to bear down. The Skyfrost sword screamed under strain. Fine cracks spidered across the blade. Wu Jiankong's face went pale, cold sweat beading on his brow. His breath came hard. He felt suffocated by the pressure. Spirit Saint? No, Wu Jiankong, in his Tier 2 battle armor, was nearly comparable to a Spirit Douluo. But the opponent before him hadn't even shown a spirit ring, nor worn armor. A wave of frustration washed over him. "Distracted while fighting me?" the Lanjia beast bellowed. "Are you provoking me?" Wu Jiankong snapped, but the iron fist, like a meteor, continued its inexorable descent. He let out a grunt as his sword could no longer hold. He was forced back, his armor rattling from the shock. "Teacher Wu," Tang Wulin cried, face drained of color. None of them had ever seen such power. The Lanjia beast looming before them was like an impassable mountain, and a sense of powerlessness settled over the crowd. How is this possible?" She stared at the clash, heart thudding with unease. They had always believed Wu Jiankong's cold aura made him unbeatable, but now, Frost Whisper Ice Wheel. With nowhere left to fall back to, and a hard edge of resolve in his voice, Wu Jiankong spun the Skyfrost sword. The blade whirled into a massive ice wheel that radiated bone-deep cold, freezing the air itself. He charged like a cannonball, the ice wheel cleaving forward with tremendous force. The Lanjia beast only sneered. He didn't back down. His figure blurred. Before the ice wheel could reach him, he flickered to Wu Jiankong's side, and his iron fist slammed into the other man's abdomen. Bang! Bang! Two soul-guided cannon blasts shot at the combatants. The Lanjia beast squinted, lifted his left arm, and an autocannon sprang to life on his forearm. A volley of energy cannonballs spat out and collided with the incoming soul-guided rounds. Wu Jiankong lifted his ice wheel in response, cutting through the projectiles. In the sky above, 1 black mecha and 8 purple mechas hovered, watching the 2 below. A voice cut through on the War King Token. This is the East Sea Legion. Immediately retract your spirit and accept the East Sea Legion's investigation. Through the token, Chen Zhou sent a message to the Lanjia beast. He still needed to study at East Sea Academy. There was no reason to provoke the local authorities. Lanjia beast, leave, Chen Zhou ordered. Understood. The Lanjia beast answered mentally, then cast a regretful look at Wu Jiankong. What a pity. We'll fight another time, Teacher Wu. He bolted off. Stop! One of the black mechas shouted and reacted, but the Lanjia beast was already headed toward a residential area. As a member of the East Sea Legion, he didn't want to fire soul-guided cannons and risk injuring civilians, so he issued a warning instead. 3 purple mechas gave chase in his direction. Wu Jiankong watched the retreating figure, dazed, then let his battle armor fall away and stood down. He didn't seem furious at the Lanjia beast's escape. That kind of righteous combat, raw power, energy control, combat experience had been far superior to his own. Without his armor's augmentation, Wu Jiankong figured he couldn't have held out against the Lanjia beast for long. A loss is a loss, and he looked relieved in that admission. He then met Chen Zhou's gaze. Chen Zhou watched him with visible interest. Admitting a weakness is often harder than admitting defeat, especially for someone who had once basked in honor and praise. For that alone, Chen Zhou found new respect for this top fighter of East Sea Academy. A truly strong person is a truly strong person. 6 mechas landed on East Sea Academy's training ground, which now lay in ruins. The duel between 2 powerful spirit masters had been more than those basic facilities could withstand. Chapter 23. Peace Talks. Wu Jiankong. The Dean of East Sea Academy glared at Wu Jiankong, his face thunderous, eyes practically spitting fire. He had never expected the Academy's strongest fighter to be embroiled in such a violent clash inside the grounds, one that even drew the attention of the East Sea Legion. Not only had the Academy lost face, but the incident could also trigger a chain of unpredictable consequences. The Dean's legs still throbbed where it had been broken in the fight, and his anger was barely contained. Wu Jiankong said nothing, only shot the Dean an indifferent look. A mechanical voice cut through the tension from the black armored mech looming overhead. Target identified, Wu Jiankong. Engaging in private combat within East Sea City violates federal law. Please come with us. Wu Jiankong did not resist. He gave the mech a cold look and nodded. He knew he had broken the law by fighting so fiercely inside East Sea City and drawing in the East Sea Legion. Reluctant as he might be, there was no choice but to cooperate with federal officers. The mech descended and opened its hatch. A military officer in East Sea Legion uniform stepped out, stern as he scanned the assembled students and faculty before fixing his gaze on Wu Jiankong. I'm fine. Don't be late for class tomorrow, Wu Jiankong said to Tang Wulin and the others, ignoring the officer. Wu Jiankong, East Sea Academy teacher, 6-ring Spirit Emperor, Battle Armor Master. You are suspected of illegal combat within East Sea City and disturbing public order. You are under lawful arrest. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say may be used as evidence in court. The officer's voice was cold and formal, full of displeasure. Wu Jiankong simply nodded. At the officer's signal, 2 soldiers escorted him toward a waiting East Sea Legion vehicle at the academy entrance. The black mech lifted off and departed, leaving a charged silence in its wake. The dean watched the departing craft, his expression still dark. He turned to Chen Zhou, eyes flickering with a complicated mix of suspicion and unease. Whoever Chen Zhou was, he clearly commanded powerful backing, someone the dean resolved to investigate thoroughly once things settled. You 4, each of you gets a demerit. Now go back to your dorms and sleep, the dean barked, his anger barely contained. His tone left no room for argument. Cross the academy, contradict a superior, and you'd be expelled if not for Wu Jiankong's status. Long Hongshu gave Chen Zhou an apologetic smile and left with the dean, unwilling to let the conflict between Wu Jiankong and Lanjia continue. This was an academy. A scandal like tonight's could not be permitted to spiral. Chen Zhou watched Long Hengshu go, a slight smirk curving his lips. He couldn't care less about EC Academy's opinion. The academy had never been his goal, only a convenient place to learn. As long as it provided knowledge and didn't provoke him, their cold stares meant nothing. He turned to Tang Wulin and the others, studying them for a moment. Tang Wulin, long time no see. They had been classmates at Red Mountain Academy for 3 years, and Tang Wulin had sought Chen Zhou's advice on more than one occasion back then. Tang Wulin's expression was complicated now. The delicate, scholarly prodigy he remembered had become someone colder, sharper. Chen Zhou. Tang Wulin hesitated, unsure how to address the change. Don't look at me like that. We're just former classmates. Everything you imagine about me is just that, an imagination, Chen Zhou said lightly. Truth is often not so easily obtained. Tang Wulin replied softly. Chen Zhou cut the pleasantries short. Enough small talk. What are your plans now? He had been listening to the Lanjia beast each night, gathering information on the planet's powers. He knew Shrek Academy was a transcendent force, and that many of the Sun Moon Federation's senior and mid-level cadres came from there. To Chen Zhou, the Federation looked weak to be so constrained by an academy. Dusted from the aftershocks of the fight, he watched the 3 students before him. Are you going to go back to the dorm and sleep, or are you going to try to avenge your teacher by foolishly taking me on? Shishe clenched his fists, jaw tight with anger and unwillingness. But he had seen the match between the Lanjia beast and Wu Jiankong, and the truth was stark. The power around Chen Zhou far exceeded what they had imagined. Charging in would only end in humiliation. Gu Yue remained calm. She tugged Shishe's sleeve and whispered, Don't be impulsive. We can't beat him. Tang Wulin drew a slow breath. The Chen Zhou he remembered at Red Mountain Academy had been kind, gentle, a different person from the cold, unfathomable figure standing now. Why has this happened? He asked, still bewildered. You should be asking yourselves that, Chen Zhou replied. He explained in a tone unusually patient for him that he had simply heard noise while walking by and had come to see. Tang Wulin's classmate had accused him of peeking. His retort had prompted the untrained student to attack. From beginning to end, Chen Zhou swore he hadn't provoked anything. Shishe and Gu Yue listened, anger and doubt warring on their faces. Tang Wulin absorbed the explanation, his confusion slowly shifting toward a reluctant understanding. Chen Zhou, uncharacteristically patient, walked them through the whole sequence as if making up for lost time, covering 5 chapters worth at once. Chapter 24, the idea of expanding the team. If possible, Chen Zhou wanted to wrap this up quickly so it wouldn't affect his future studies. But Teacher Wu is a teacher, Tang Wulin began. Chen Zhou cut him off before he could finish, a trace of mockery in his voice. A teacher? Does that mean a teacher can slander students at will? Lecture without any sense of right or wrong? Put himself above everyone else and trample on their dignity? What sort of logic is that? Tang Wulin faltered. Chen Zhou's words were not loud, but each one landed like a blade, and Tang Wulin found he had no reply. He remembered what had just happened. Wu Jiankong had attacked Chen Zhou without proof and even ordered Shishe to move against him. That was hardly the behavior of a proper teacher. Gu Yue watched quietly from the side, an analytical look in her eyes. She wasn't carried away by emotion the way Tang Wulin was. She took in Chen Zhou's calm, in-control demeanor and was surprised. This kind of confidence wasn't a show. If he hadn't left yet, then there was a reason. She stepped forward and fixed him with a cool, steady gaze. Say it. What do you want? Chen Zhou glanced at her with a hint of approval and smiled faintly, playful. Quick-witted, smarter than your friends. Since you asked, I'll be direct. His gaze swept over Tang Wulin, Shishe, and Gu Yu. I don't want tonight to happen again. You can keep studying at EC Academy, but don't provoke me. I don't mean you harm, but I won't tolerate being interfered with. Let's put tonight behind us and each mind our own business from now on. How about that? Tang Wulin frowned, reluctant, and opened his mouth as if to argue, but stopped. Chen Zhou's words were blunt, but true. This whole incident had been their doing, and Chen Zhou had merely defended himself. Shishe looked unconvinced, but he also knew he was outmatched. The fight between Lanjia Beast and Wu Zhangkong had shown him how much greater Chen Zhou's power was than they'd imagined. Charging in would only end badly. Guyo nodded, voice even. We understand. We'll learn from this. It won't happen again. Chen Zhou inclined his head and began to leave. At his first step, Guyo called out, Chen Zhou, who are you exactly? He paused, turned back, and allowed a small smile. Who I am isn't important. Remember only one thing. Don't provoke me again, or you'll suffer the consequences. Then he melted into the night. Tang Wulin stood watching the receding figure, his emotions tangled. He never would have thought Chen Zhou, the gentle boy he'd known, could be so powerful and so indifferent. A deep breath, and he said softly to Gu Yu and Shi Shi, Let's go back. Trust Teacher Wu. He'll be fine, Gu Yu replied. The three returned to their dorm in silence. They lay on their beds, but sleep wouldn't come. Tonight's events had shaken them deeply. The helplessness in the face of such power, the realization that even Shishi's 2 months of special training and Wu Zhangkong's status weren't enough, those feelings stuck like grit under their skin. Meanwhile, Chen Zhou returned to his house outside East Sea Academy. He sat on the edge of his bed, eyes distant as if weighing plans. Inside his mind, within the War King Token's pocket of space, Lanjia Beast had reverted to its original mechanical form. Chen Zhou preferred that form, but he'd kept the token on the beast for a reason. He had anticipated that the East Sea Legion would put people on his house, so he'd given the War King Token to Lanjia Beast. From the token, Lanjia Beast could slip back to the Machine Beast world at will, and because Chen Zhou remained linked to the token, he could summon it whenever necessary. So the Legion's searches would always come up empty. In the enclosed, sparse mental space, Lanjia Beast knelt on one knee before Chen Zhou's mental projection. My lord, did I cause any trouble? Chen Zhou shook his head. Wu Zhangkong isn't the sort to back down. He's arrogant from being raised at Shrek Academy, but he's not foolish. He always puts his school first. You'll need to stay here and cultivate for a while. When the commotion blows over, I'll release you. Lanjia Beast's mechanical eyes gleamed as if relieved to have a quiet place to train, but then it hesitated. What about funds going forward? Chen Zhou waved a hand. Funds aren't the real problem. I am. He'd made a tidy sum through the 7 treasure-glazed tile merchant guild by selling simple items, portable soul-guided mecha cannons, small defensive soul-guided shields, and by monopolizing energy amethyst sales when buyers needed replenishment. The profit was there. But alchemy in this world required adaptation, and most of his resources had been poured into experiments that often failed. Many of the alchemical recipes and pieces of equipment he knew had no direct substitutes here. He had to document and rebuild them piece by piece, and rare spirit herbs were scarce and costly, making the input far larger than the output. From now on, I'll put potion research on hold and shift toward alchemical technology, producing alchemy equipment, Chen Zhou decided. And we need to expand the team. The last sentence lit up Lanjia Beast's face as if the beast had been waiting for it. War King, the Armor Beast tribe, is honored to serve the War Mecha King for generations. It cupped a hand in an almost ceremonial bow, overflowing with loyalty. Chen Zhou couldn't help a soft chuckle at the beast's enthusiasm. He already had a general idea of how to proceed. Focus on practical alchemy tech, build production capacity, and bring in allies whose strengths complemented his. Beasts, craftsmen, and those who could help secure resources. With Lanjia Beast safely tucked away and the War King Token hidden from prying eyes, Chen Zhou could start laying the groundwork for a team that wouldn't be so easily intimidated or scattered. Lanjia Beast's fervent pledge hung in the quiet space as Chen Zhou began to map the first steps of his next plan. Chapter 25. On the Machine Race. Lanjia Beast lifted his head and spoke with exaggerated righteousness. I see the machine race as a dry bone in a tomb, content to stagnate for generations. He listed the clans one by one. The Thunder Tribe is rigid and stuck in old ways, no ambition, not up to heavy responsibilities. The Wave Clan is arrogant and reckless, better at wrecking things than building them. The Whirlwind Tribe looks down on others, haughty and unfit for great burdens. The Ice Tribe is rash, lacking in wisdom. Their stubbornness will bring disaster. The Mount Tai Clan is blunt and dull, good at brute force but inflexible. The meteor tribe is expendable, hardly worth mentioning. Is that so? Chen Zhou's smile deepened as he followed Lanja Beast's litany. So by your account, I shouldn't summon the machine race at all. Exactly. Exactly. Lanja Beast nodded eagerly, pleased with his own verdict. Chen Zhou feigned thoughtfulness. Then what about summoning the Ice Wolf tribe? Ice Wolf beasts are swift and fight both in the air and on the ground. Once they gain momentum, they're unstoppable. But can they shoulder great responsibilities? Lanja Beast waved a paw in dismissal. They only follow orders literally. The world is unpredictable. You can't rely on them for anything but straightforward tasks. Chen Zhou considered a moment, then asked about the Tiger Leopard clan. Tiger leopards are clever and ruthless, moving like the wind. They bend and wait for the right moment. But Lanja Beast shook his head. They're too devious, temperament unstable, quick to anger, not someone you can count on for serious duties. Chen Zhou's smile widened. And the Nether clan? Nether poison beasts are quick-thinking, stealthy, perfect assassins and scouts, but they're sinister and strange. Their methods breed distrust among other tribes and invite trouble. Not suitable. Chen Zhou chuckled, voice playful. Then tell me, which tribe should I summon? Lanja Beast straightened, pride filling his tone. My lord, the Armor Beast tribe are your most loyal warriors. They're steady, brave, and without hesitation. Whether it's direct combat or strategic deployment, they can be relied on. If your lordship summons the Armor Beast tribe, they will help you achieve great things in this world. Chen Zhou's smile flickered with approval. Lanja, you know how to praise yourself. Still, what you say makes sense. The Armor Beasts are indeed among the tribes I trust. With a War King Token and the original energy Amethyst, any machine race tribe would be bound to loyalty. But the Armor Beast tribe was especially straightforward and easy to use, so summoning them would be practical. A red light flared briefly in Lanja Beast's eyes, anticipation clear. My lord, have you decided to summon the Armor Beast tribe? Chen Zhou nodded slightly, resolve in his tone. Yes, they're exactly what I need, but summoning them requires a great deal of energy and resources. I need time to prepare. Be patient. Lanja Beast immediately bowed his head, excitement barely contained. My lord, rest assured, the Armor Beast tribe stands ready, waiting for your lordship's call. Very well, Chen Zhou said, waving a hand. Cultivate here for now. When I'm ready, I will summon you. Lanja Beast nodded respectfully and retreated to the side to cultivate. Chen Zhou's mental projection gradually faded as he returned to the real world. As he re-entered his body, Chen Zhou reflected on cultivation. One either advances or regresses. The original energy Amethyst functioned like an alchemical grimoire, inscribed with formulas that allowed it to cultivate spirit power on its own. That removed one worry, but as his power grew, so would his resource needs. He would have to innovate. Mental force was the foundation of alchemy. Some earlier failed experiments could have succeeded if he had deliberately used alchemy energy to alter the properties of matter. But Chen Zhou had been cautious. He saw his present years as the golden period for growing mental force deliberately and steadily. Today, he decided he must finish constructing the water element. He sat cross-legged and emptied his mind. The Heaven and Earth Refining Meditation method, one of the Supreme Hall's pinnacle works, was uniquely suited to an alchemist. In the Sea of Consciousness, he inscribed the frameworks of wind, fire, earth, and water to fashion a mental world. He then organized the 5 elements so that the world would flow, divided yin and yang, sorted clear from turbid, and began to recreate heaven and earth. After 3 years of steady work, the inscription for the water element was finally within reach. What is water? Flexible and formless, it symbolizes change and adaptability. Water takes any shape and over time wears down the hardest stone. In alchemy, water represents transformation. Chen Zhou's mental force surged. Working inside the Sea of Consciousness was dangerous. One small misstep could shatter the mind or annihilate consciousness itself. He had prepared thoroughly. No matter how turbulent the inner sea became, he remained calm. His mental force worked like a sculptor's chisel, carving each alchemical rune for the water element into the sea. The runes responded and resonated. At first, the mental currents roared like a torrent, swelling and colliding, filling the Sea of Consciousness. Guided by those inscriptions, his consciousness tasted the essence of water, formless yet omnipresent, able to be a trickling spring or a towering wave, gentle rain or a roaring flood. Within this ever-changing flux, he sought the element's unchanging core. Water, soft but not weak, forceful without violence, endlessly changing yet constant in nature, he intoned quietly. Slowly, his mental force condensed. The inscriptions chimed together and, fed by his will, merged into a single crystal-clear drop that hung in the sea of consciousness, faintly glowing. Chen Zhou continued to pour in mental energy. The drop swelled until it became a boundless ocean, the water element complete. As the ocean expanded, so did the sea of consciousness. The newly formed water element filled the mental world. The surge of power was intense. His soul, newly strengthened, felt the strain. It was an uncomfortable, prickling sensation. New growth always hurts, yet nothing broke. Over time, his soul adjusted, acclimating to the greater flow of mental force. Chen Zhou let his awareness drift through the sea of consciousness, feeling the subtle changes the water element had brought. The ocean's currents braided with his mental force, granting new possibilities for alchemy. He recognized that the road ahead would require more resources and more innovation, but for now, he had crossed an important threshold. He settled into the expanded sea of consciousness and began to plan the next step. Chapter 26, Rune Construction, Purple Armor Beast. This change was not just an increase in mental strength, it brought a deeper understanding of alchemy. Successfully constructing the water element meant Chen Zhou had taken a crucial step on the path of alchemy. Knowledge determined power, and that was truer here than anywhere else. The heaven and earth refining meditation method was powerful because once a mental world was formed, any matter inside it could be refined instantly, drastically reducing consumption. Now, with the water element in place, Chen Zhou only needed to will it, and with sufficient alchemy energy, he could instantly refine water-based matter and cast water element alchemy techniques. Coupled with his cooperation with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Merchant Guild, he could even produce alchemical potions for sale to generate profit and capital. After calming the turbulent sea of his mind, Chen Zhou felt the breadth of his mental force. With hundreds of years of memory from his previous life, he quickly remastered control over such vast power. He once more transformed into a spiritual body and entered the desolate world within the War King Token. Mecha Beast immediately bowed the moment he saw Chen Zhou appear. "Greetings, War Mecha King. Congratulations on your increase in strength." Chen Zhou nodded slightly and let his gaze sweep over Mecha Beast with a hint of satisfaction. Mecha Beast wasn't the top fighter among the Mecha Beast Clan, but he was intelligent and steady. Next, I need to summon the Armor Beast tribe's elite backbone, Chen Zhou thought. I wonder who it will be. The Mecha Beast Clan constructs, shaped by the original energy Amethyst and the War King Token, were essentially generated from data stored in the token, usually with an element of randomness. Chen Zhou had already summoned Mecha Beast to the real world to act as his guardian. After scanning the house thoroughly with his mental force and finding no listening devices, he officially began the ritual. Sinking silver, profound iron, black steel. Under the scatter of purple light emitted by the original energy amethyst, those incredibly tough metals melted into liquid. Feeling the change, the mental rune for water in Chen Zhou's mind lit and his thoughts sharpened. The creation process became visible to him. He could perceive the convergence of laws and heaven and earth energy within it. His mental force surged like a tide as his hands traced profound trajectories in the air, imitating the energy flow of the original energy amethyst. Chen Zhou took out a precious metal, the purple dream gold. The fist-sized ingot floated beneath the War King Token and transformed into a circular metal disc, like the one Mecha Beast had carried. The purple energy from the original amethyst seemed alive, reverberating within the disc. Molten iron enveloped it, and purple light wrapped around like a cocoon. Metal energy, Chen Zhou murmured, feeling a familiar surge of craving. He produced another piece of purple dream gold. This second ingot, drawn by the amethyst's energy, dissolved into a light purple mist and infused itself into the budding existence bathed in purple light. The fulfillment of that final condition triggered some internal rule, and Chen Zhou's mental body perceived the change clearly. A new life was forming. At that moment, Chen Zhou decisively activated the water rune in his sea of mind. Everything symbolic of water became sharply defined in his vision. The instant the purple lights flashed, his mental force poured into the nurturing metal mass. His consciousness linked with the new life. He felt every subtle shift. The authority of creation was laid out before him, and Chen Zhou was utterly absorbed. Inspirations about alchemy flooded his mind, but there was no time to waste. The metal mass, wrapped in purple light, gradually condensed and finally formed into a tall mechanical body. Its shape resembled Lanjia beasts, but was more robust, radiating a sense of sharpness and solidity. Its armor was a deep, unfathomable purple. Chen Zhou let his mental force recede, a trace of satisfaction in his eyes. He could tell at once this new armor beast warrior was stronger than Lanjia beast. Purple armor beast, greetings, War Mecha King, the new construct intoned as it knelt on one knee. Its voice was low and earth-deep. Red light flickered in its eyes, carrying fierce, killing intent. Chen Zhou studied Purple Armor Beast for a moment, silently assessing its strength. The aura was far more profound than Lanjia Beast's, sharp, solid, and unmistakably battle-hardened. If Lanjia Beast was the strategist, Purple Armor Beast would be the general who charged into the fray. Chen Zhou was pleased. The expensive materials had not been wasted. "Welcome, Purple Armor Beast," Chen Zhou said calmly and with authority. He stepped forward and regarded the kneeling warrior. Purple Armor Beast lifted its head. Awe and fanatic devotion shone in those red eyes. "My lord, Purple Armor Beast is willing to die for you." Chen Zhou inclined his head slightly in approval. "Very good. Your arrival strengthens us considerably." He turned to Lanjia Beast. "Lanjia Beast, you felt Purple Armor Beast's power already. You two will work together and serve me." Lanjia Beast nodded eagerly. He could sense the new warrior's strength, precisely what they needed. He stepped forward and met Purple Armor Beast's gaze. Although strangers, as members of the Armor Beast tribe, they shared a natural understanding. "The upcoming operation will require Purple Armor Beast," Chen Zhou continued. "For the next 2 days, Lanjia Beast explained the current circumstances and the objectives to Purple Armor Beast thoroughly." "I'm going to cultivate now," Chen Zhou added, a touch impatient. The heavy consumption of mental force left him slightly dizzy, but it did not stop him from hurrying to the laboratory. He had a completely new perspective on countless alchemical potion formulas from the memories of his past life. He had to write them down before the inspiration from watching the creation process faded. Chapter 27, Ye Yingluo's Request. In the early morning, the first rays of sunlight cut through the thin mist and touched the blue stone paths of Eastsea Academy. The whole campus seemed wrapped in a soft, golden light. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves, bringing a hint of coolness. In an old pavilion tucked among trees, Chen Zhou sat with a thick book in his hands. The pavilion stood at the edge of the academy, shaded by dense foliage. Small birds hopped on the branches and chirped. Slivers of sunlight fell across Chen Zhou, turning his face calm and composed in shifting patterns of light and shadow. He wore a simple white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, showing strong forearms. His stare was focused and deep, as if the world outside had nothing to do with him. Only the pages mattered. A steaming cup of tea sat beside him, the scent of tea and old paper blending in the air. Now and then he lifted the cup, sipped, and returned to the book with fingers gliding along the paper, like someone touching the soul of each word. His brows would furrow and relax as he worked through thought after thought. Chen Zhou had been planning how to solve another thorny problem, making spirit tools truly portable by mastering mental expansion and contraction. He wanted something that would increase his worth to the 7-treasure glazed tile merchant guild. Something with real, demonstrable benefit. Alchemy potions were out of the question to show off now. Their profit margin and replicable nature would draw predators from the shadows. Energy Amethyst could be defended as an accidental discovery and tight mining operation, with the Purple Armor Beast serving as a deterrent. Potions, however, could be copied and taught. If he revealed them recklessly, people with real power would come sniffing. His influence wasn't yet enough to scare such people away, so for the time being, he would press forward with spirit tools, combining alchemy knowledge from his previous life with the beast mechanism tech from the War King Token. Build steadily, grow wings, then astonish the world. The expansion and contraction of spirit tools, he read, turning a page. A shadow crossed the sunlight and a soft voice asked, Student Chen Zhou, may I have a word? Chen Zhou looked up. Ye Yingluo stood there, beautiful, gentle, his homeroom teacher. Teacher Ye, he replied, tilting his head but not rising. His voice was polite but detached. Ye Yingluo hesitated, then spoke in a small, uncertain tone. Student Chen Zhou, the class promotion competition is tomorrow. Did you know about it? Chen Zhou raised an eyebrow. Teacher Ye, I don't recall signing up for that. She bit her lip, embarrassed. No, you didn't sign up, but your strength is well known in class, and even across the grade. If you don't take part, Class 1 might lose this chance. He turned a page without rushing, speaking mildly. The class promotion competition doesn't mean much to me. My goals lie elsewhere. She frowned, more urgent. I know your research is important, but the competition won't take much time. And if you perform well, the Academy could allocate more resources and opportunities to you. That would help your cultivation and research. Chen Zhou regarded her slowly. He closed the book and rose, his tone serious. Teacher Ye, I appreciate your concern, but you have another reason for asking me to compete, don't you? She started. How could it be? I simply want Class 1 to keep our current standing. If I remember correctly, Class 1 isn't short of 2 ring spirit masters besides me, Chen Zhou said. If you still lack confidence, then winning is more about stabilizing the outcome. He fixed her with a steady look, his voice calm but incisive. There's something else. You and Teacher Wu, there must be something in the past between you. Teacher Wu is proud and narrow-minded. If unprovoked, he treats everyone with the same condescension. You, however, are always kind. You wouldn't do anything petty unless there were other feelings involved. Ye Yingluo's eyes trembled. Chen Zhou leaned forward and met her gaze. As the saying goes, a courteous woman finds a gentleman worthy of her. The reverse can also be true. He paused, then asked softly, Teacher Yi, were you rejected after confessing? Her face flushed and she lowered her head, unable to meet his eyes. Chen Zhou's expression did not change, but inside he noted the click as if a lock had opened. He'd hit the mark. 2 chapters for now, another update later. Chapter 28. A stone from another mountain. Can polished Jade Yingluo's cheeks flamed the moment Chen Zhou saw through her, and her eyes darted about in a panic, as if his words had pierced the softest part of her heart. Her fingers twisted together, her lips trembling as though she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. Chen Zhou's mouth curled into a faint smile. He didn't press the point. Instead, he sank back onto the long pavilion bench, lifted the slightly cool teacup, and took a small sip. The tea's aroma lingered, but the atmosphere between them had grown delicate and strained. Teacher Ye, there's no need to be embarrassed, Chen Zhou said, setting the cup down with a calm, gentle tone. Feelings are natural. Since Teacher Wu Zhangkong has rejected you, there's no point in chasing him. He leaned back, as if he were merely taking a break from reading. Ye Yingluo clenched her hands, staring at him. Mortification and a surge of emotion fluttered across her face. Her cheeks were still flushed, but stubbornness and refusal shone in her eyes. She drew in a breath and forced herself to speak slowly. Chen Zhou, I need to know. Will you take part in the promotion competition? You know what's at stake, he replied. If Class 1 loses its standing, resource allocation will shrink. You'll be affected too. His tone made it clear he was unimpressed by her plea. For someone trying to achieve a goal by tying others to it, humility would have been the proper posture. Instead, she'd staked a self-righteous threat on irrelevant benefits. Boring, he thought. He showed no interest in her entreaty. Opening the book in his lap, Chen Zhou immersed himself in it while giving her a dismissive wave. Teacher Ye, find someone else. Ye Yingluo stood frozen, knuckles whitening. Anger and helplessness crossed her eyes, but deeper still was a helpless resignation. She realized she couldn't convince him, that reason wouldn't move him. Chen Zhou's cold indifference formed an invisible wall that nothing she offered could breach. She inhaled, forcing herself to calm down. Continuing would only humiliate her further. She bowed her head and managed a bitter, I understand, Chen Zhou. I'm sorry to trouble you. Then she turned and left the pavilion, her back looking small and forlorn. Her footsteps receded along the bluestone path, and finally faded away. Chen Zhou remained, staring at the page as if nothing at all had happened. His fingers gently turned the paper while a slight frown crossed his brow. He seemed to be thinking about something in the book. Sunlight sifted through the leaves, modeling his body. In that morning light, he looked solitary, but powerful. Time passed quietly as Chen Zhou sank into the book's world, the outside blurring into the background. His thoughts drifted through the structure and principles of spirit tools. Complex runes and alchemical formations from his past life rose and interwove in his mind. His fingers skimmed the pages, as if tracing the soul of each word. The treasure his former life had given him was a boundless library of knowledge, like mountains and seas. Alchemy, he decided, could be the other stone to polish the uncut jade of spirit tools. The expansion and contraction of a spirit tool that hinges on control of mental force. Chen Zhou murmured. He lacked none of that. He closed the book, shut his eyes, and began to simulate the spirit tool's structure and operation in his head. His mental force, like an invisible web, slowly unfolded and enveloped the imagined device. Every detail and rune appeared with clarity. If I can compress the core while keeping its functions intact, the size of portable spirit tools could be drastically reduced, he thought. After inscribing the water rune, his mental force had already taken on the breadth of an ocean, moving him a quarter of the way toward forming a mental world. In both quality and quantity, his mental force outmatched his peers. Under his concentrated focus, the sea of mental energy surged. The heaven and earth refining meditation method worked in the background, transmuting substances within that sea and letting him experiment virtually with contraction and expansion. His mental ocean churned with methodical waves. His consciousness moved through it like a creator, laying out each aspect of the spirit tool. He repeatedly took the core apart and reassembled it in the mind, refining the placement of every engraved pattern until the design neared perfection. Chen Zhou reached deeper, drawing on the alchemy and mechanical knowledge from his previous life, attempting to blend their essentials into a new kind of portable spirit tool. Yes, that's it, he thought with quiet excitement as a rough outline coalesced in his head. The concept was for a small, exquisite tool, unusual in form, forward-looking in function. If he mastered the contraction and expansion mechanism, it would be more than a weapon, a powerful assistant in everyday tasks. The structure should be simple yet complete. The core must withstand high-energy output. Material choices must balance lightness and strength, he calculated, conducting an invisible orchestra in his mind. Inspiration swelled as he recalled efficient energy conversion principles from his past life and resolved to incorporate them. Streams in his mental ocean merged into a current that seemed to build a bridge to an unknown domain. A soft voice interrupted his train of thought. Chen Zhou, what are you doing here? Long Hengshu stood at the pavilion's edge, puzzled to find him absent from Class 1's lesson. Chapter 29, Dr. Long's Ingenious Idea, Progress. Oh, Dr. Long. Chen Zhou opened his eyes and looked at Long Hengsu without a trace of the nervousness or guilt you'd expect from a student caught skipping class by the dean of students. He spoke calmly. Teacher Ye has been cutting quite a few classes recently to prepare for the promotion competition. She's training the students who are participating and having Class 1 observe. Is that so? Then why aren't you there? Long Hengsu blurted, immediately regretting the blunt question. Chen Zhou's expression didn't change. This wasn't the sort of student East Sea Academy needed to fuss over. He'd been apprenticed to a mysterious, powerful spirit tool master and was protected by a being capable of facing Wu Zhangkong without blinking. What did he need from a junior division teacher? What the academy could provide was mainly resources and a platform. Still, he wasn't disrespectful. He gave Long Hengsu a calm, reasonable explanation. I've been working on spirit tool theory research lately. I think it helps me more. Teacher Ye agreed. I don't need to take part in class training for now. My research direction is different from the others. Long Hengsu relaxed. He approved with a nod. That explains it. No wonder Teacher Ye didn't mention you. But Chen Zhou, even if your research is special, the Academy's basic courses are still useful, especially for mastering fundamentals and spirit master combat techniques. If you have the time, you should sit in sometimes. You might learn something new. Chen Zhou smiled faintly. Thanks for the suggestion, Dr. Long. I'll consider it. Long Hengshu's impression of the young man improved. He patted Chen Zhou's shoulder. We all see your talent and work, Chen Zhou, but cultivation is about balanced development. Spirit tools are vital, but a spirit master's strength also relies on themselves. Don't neglect your own cultivation while researching tools. I won't, Dr. Long. Chen Zhou nodded once. Satisfied, Long Hengsu gave a few more practical instructions before leaving the pavilion. Chen Zhou watched him go, but his mind wasn't swayed. His path was different. Spirit tool research was his core, while spirit master cultivation served to support that goal. He closed his eyes again and returned to his mental force C, running non-ideal state simulations on his perfected model. Although Chen Zhou had no interest in the promotion competition itself, he liked to watch matches among his peers. Spirit power in this world could leap forward by orders of magnitude. Battles were a rich source of information. Knowing both yourself and your enemy guaranteed advantage. Even overwhelming power could be neutralized if forces matched. Information could tip the scales. As expected, Ye Yingluo bore a deep grudge against Wu Zhangkong. It wasn't just resentment, it was like the bitter aftermath of rejected devotion. Chen Zhou didn't want to wade into romance and revenge. Acceptance and rejection were other people's business. He watched the match objectively. Class 1 versus Class 5. Class 1 fielded spirit grandmasters of 2 rings across the board. Class 5 relied on a few remarkable names, Xie Xie, Tang Wulin, and the inscrutable transfer student Gu Yue. Wu Zhangkong, though a product of Shrek Academy's rigid instruction, wasn't without real combat skill. Over a month of intensive training, Xie Xie had grown noticeably on the field. Stubborn diligence produced respect. The fight intensified. Gu Yue, though only a 1-ring spirit master, unleashed an ice and snow storm with force comparable to a 3-ring attack. Chen Zhou narrowed his eyes. Ice and wind combined, but this was different than ordinary elemental control. The mental forces in his mind reached out, sensing the way the elements around Gu Yue responded. They didn't merely obey, they submitted, acting as if she were a sovereign ruler commanding subjects. This wasn't mere elementalism. With Chen Zhou's experience, he recognized an extraordinary nature, the ability to treat the elements as servants to be given will, not just forces to manipulate. Fascinating. He watched patiently as the match continued. Zhang Xiang and Wang Jingxi's spirit fusion technique, Tang Wulin's 5-fingered golden dragon claw, the reckless charisma of Xie Xie. This generation is full of talent, Chen Zhou murmured. When the contest became a chaotic farce, Wu Zhangkong's intervention brought it to an end. There was nothing more to observe, and Chen Zhou's curiosity was satisfied. He left the arena with his mind already on other things, finishing his latest spirit tool, expanding his reputation, earning capital, creating more Armor Beast Tribe recruits, and gradually infiltrating East Sea's coast. East Sea would be a springboard. From there, sweep across the Sun Moon Federation. Thinking about the Sun Moon Federation's history over 10,000 years, Chen Zhou felt both bewildered and opportunistic. How had a power that once swept 3 empires and unified continents come to be hemmed in by 2 civilian forces, Shrek Academy and the Tang sect, scraping by on a few high-level fighters? He didn't pretend to know. He only concluded the Federation Council had playbooks he hadn't seen. That only stoked his ambition. He wanted control of East Sea, of the Federation, ultimately the whole Douluo Star world, to turn resources into fuel for travels across time and space. But ambition required steps. He needed funding first, then to break the 7 treasure glazed tile merchant guild's chokehold on distribution and take charge of his own finances. Unaware of Chen Zhou's far-reaching calculations, Long Hengshu watched him leave and frowned. The promotion competition had worn him out. Who would have expected a 1-ring wielder of blue-silver grass, a spirit considered useless, to produce such power? If there were twin spirits, why hadn't they been declared earlier? If he'd known, he never would have let the student go to Class 5. And that transfer student Gu Yue, no wonder the usually arrogant Wu Zhangkong had sought him out calmly. A 1-ring spirit master releasing a 3-ring level assault, was that possible? Then he cataloged the roster in his mind. Chen Zhou with inscrutable strength and powerful backing, Gu Yue with a mysterious spirit and unknown origins, Tang Wulin suspected of twin spirits, Xie with twin spirits, Zhang Ziyang and Wang Jingxi, who could fuse spirits, and Wei Xiaofeng, whose spirit and soul spirit reported an ideal combination. Hiss. The talent quality at East Sea Academy this year was unusually high. Long Hongshu was dean of students precisely because he could think flexibly. Class labels aside, where so many gifted students gathered, there was potential to raise the academy's standing. East Sea City had wealth from its location, but East Sea Academy was middle to lower tier across the continent. If he could hold on to these students and cultivate them well, rebuilding the academy's reputation might not be impossible. Determined, Long Hongshu ran toward Principal Yu Zhen's office. It was time to make a plan. It was time to make progress. Third update delivered. Many readers ask whether this book will stop updating. It will not. Given current support, the author will keep writing even if things get rocky. Support helps, so don't hoard chapters. Charge forward and help conquer the new book rankings. Chen Zhou, may I come in? Long Hongshu knocked on the door of the 3-story townhouse. He paused, gathering his nerve. Dr. Long? A bored voice answered from the first floor. Not Chen Zhou's, but the Lanjia beasts, tuned into a live news broadcast. Mr. Long? I need to speak with Chen Zhou. Is he home? Long Hongshu did not ask the Lanjia beast to open the door for him. He waited politely. The creature's mechanical eyes rotated. Faint lights clicked between its gears as if it were thinking. Lanjia, let Dr. Long in. There was a muffled reply from upstairs, and then silence. Chen Zhou must have been engrossed in his work. The Lanjia beast obliged. In a flash of blue light, its great mechanical frame reshaped into flesh and blood. Sky blue robes flowed into place, and the refined air of Lanjia returned, though the beast always felt vaguely awkward in human form, despite no loss in combat ability. Dr. Long, sorry to have kept you waiting, Lanjia said with a small smile, stepping aside. Long Hongshu entered. The living room was spacious and tastefully furnished, luxurious without being gaudy. Every detail spoke of the owner's refinement. The TV's news anchor murmured in the background. Lanjia casually turned the set off and addressed Long Hongshu. Chen Zhou is in his lab upstairs. He's been busy with a project and may not have heard you arrive. That's fine, Long Hongshu said with a concerned smile. That boy works himself too hard. Lanjia merely nodded. Is your visit urgent, Dr. Long? Long Hongshu opened his mouth to answer, but at that moment footsteps sounded as someone descended the stairs. Both men turned. A young man in a simple white lab coat came down slowly, a document in hand. His gaze passed between them and rested on Long Hongshu. He gave a slight nod. Dr. Long, you're here. Chen Zhou's voice was calm, as if he had expected the visit. Long Hongshu looked at him and felt something like admiration. Though young, Chen Zhou carried a maturity and detachment that made him seem older. I've come to discuss setting up a zero class, Long Hongshu said bluntly. He had little social intimacy with Chen Zhou. His only real connection was that his junior sister, Lin Shimeng, had been Chen Zhou's homeroom teacher, so he dealt with matters directly. Zero class? Chen Zhou raised an eyebrow, sat on the sofa, and motioned for Lanjia to bring tea. We don't have a zero class in the intermediate division, do we? Long Hongshu relaxed when Chen Zhou signaled he was listening. He took a cup of tea and explained slowly. The dean and I have decided to form a zero class. This year's cohort has an unusually high number of exceptional students, yourself included. Gu Yue, Tang Wulin, Xie, Zhang Ziang, Wang Jinxi, all of you show potential far beyond your peers. If we split you up by the usual method, it could limit your development. Chen Zhou nodded. He didn't care much about whether the academy invested in him personally, but he wanted to hear the plan. Long Hongshu continued. The zero class will gather these outstanding students for targeted training. It won't be bound by the conventional curriculum. Each student will receive a customized cultivation plan. The academy will also provide extra resources and support to help you progress faster. Chen Zhou considered this, then asked, Does joining the zero class mean we won't take part in the promotion competition? No, Long Hongshu replied. The promotion competition will still happen, but zero-class students won't participate in interclass competitions. Instead, you'll operate as a unified group and represent the academy in higher-level contests and events. Chen Zhou's interest was piqued. He wasn't particularly eager to compete, but access to more resources and information was appealing. Have most of the students agreed to this? He asked. Most have, Long Hongshu said. They're willing, but your decision matters. Your talent and strength are key to the class's success. Chen Zhou smiled faintly. You flatter me. I'm interested. If it grants more resources and opportunity, I'll join. Long Hongshu's relief was obvious. Excellent. We'll move quickly to establish the class and draw up cultivation plans. Chen Zhou then asked, who will be the Zero class's mentor? Teacher Wu Zhangkong, Long Hongshu answered. You know his strength and experience. He also has unique insights into cultivation. Chen Zhou's expression changed. He waved a hand. No. Forget it. Teacher Wu and I have a substantial feud. It would be better not to make things awkward. He respected Wu Zhangkong's abilities. He believed a good teacher deserved respect, but their personal conflict made Wu an unsuitable mentor for him. The rift could interfere with his cultivation, and Chen Zhou would not accept that risk. Long Hongshu's brow tightened. He had not expected Chen Zhou to refuse. After a moment, he said, I understand there's a misunderstanding between you and Teacher Wu, but his teaching is beyond doubt. As mentor to the Zero class, he would treat every student professionally. If you have concerns, we'll find a solution together. There will be another update later. Chapter 31, Requirements. Chen Zhou shook his head. Dr. Long, I'm not questioning Teacher Wu's teaching ability. The problem isn't a simple misunderstanding. There's actual animosity between us. He paused, then continued evenly. I don't care about so-called teaching resources. What I need is a platform, somewhere that can broaden my horizons and expand my knowledge system. What I've always lacked is the qualification or opportunity to access higher-level knowledge. Chen Zhou waved his right hand and withdrew his latest experimental piece, the portable retractable turret, from the storage spirit tool on his finger. Long Hongshu stared at the iron sphere in Chen Zhou's palm, puzzled for a moment, then recognition flashed across his face. In an instant, he remembered the portable autocannon spirit tool Chen Zhou had shown him at the start of the year. Could it be? He murmured. Chen Zhou liked the look of surprise on the older man's face. He tossed the iron ball lightly. It arced, landed in his hand, and he pressed a finger to its surface. With a soft mechanical whir, it unfolded in midair into a small, precise turret that set itself on the ground, its 3 legs gripping the floor. The turret was silver-white, etched with intricate spirit tool glyphs and emanating faint spirit power fluctuations. Despite its small size, Long Hongshu could sense the energy contained within. It was ingeniously compact. This is a portable spirit tool turret. Long Hongshu's voice shook with astonishment. Even as a spirit master, he'd never seen such a design. Chen Zhou nodded. Yes, it's the result of my recent research. Once unfolded, it forms a firing turret and fires spirit tool shells. It's not as powerful as large stationary turrets, but its mobility and flexibility more than make up for that. Whether for defense or quick offense, it can accompany personnel across a battlefield and be deployed anywhere, anytime. Long Hongshu drew a steadying breath, trying to hide his admiration. Chen Zhou, your creativity is astounding. Even many adult spirit masters couldn't design something like this. Chen Zhou smiled faintly. You flatter me, Dr. Long. It's only a small achievement. There's a lot to improve. No, Long Hongshu insisted. You've already surpassed your peers by a long way. Many adults can't compare. Your future is limitless. Chen Zhou steered the conversation back to Zero class. Dr. Long, I showed you this because my needs are different from other students. I need an environment that lets me work freely, without strict constraints. If Zero class can provide that, I'll join. If it's just another class bound to Teacher Wu's methods and pace, I'd rather stay in Class 1. Long Hongshu's expression tightened. Chen Zhou was plainly saying that even if he entered Zero class, he expected autonomy. Attend when he chose, skip when he chose. If Long agreed, he risked displeasing Wu Zhangkong. Long had ambitions to be promoted to head of teaching in the advanced section, and a poor relationship with EC Academy's strongest teacher would be a serious obstacle. But if he refused, the Academy's most outstanding student would stay out of Zero class, undermining its purpose. Chen Zhou's existence was one of the main reasons the class was being created. Long weighed the options in a tense silence. Chen Zhou seemed to read him. You don't have to worry, Dr. Long. Tell Teacher Wu my answer. Whether he agrees or not is his business, not yours. For the sake of protocol, I'll give you face. If a student of Teacher Wu can beat me in a contest, I'll accept his arrangements." The offer was calm but firm. It gave Long a way to justify granting Chen the concession, a reasonable challenge-based compromise. Long understood immediately. He looked at Chen Zhou with gratitude and nodded. "I'll relay your proposal to Teacher Wu, but I don't think any of his students will easily defeat you." Chen Zhou smiled and said nothing more. He didn't particularly care whether Teacher Wu accepted. He knew his own strength and that few could surpass him. Seeing Chen Zhou's resolve, Long relaxed. The ball was now in Wu Jiankong's court. If Wu agreed, Zero class would proceed smoothly. If not, the rift between teacher and student would remain. "Let's leave it here for today," Long said. "I'll speak with Teacher Wu as soon as possible and give you a clear answer." He stood, and Chen Zhou rose to see him to the door. Before leaving, Long placed a hand on Chen's shoulder. "No matter the outcome, keep on your path. Your talent and effort will bring you far." "Thank you, Dr. Long. I will," Chen Zhou replied. After Long left, Chen Zhou returned to the living room. The Lanjia beast had reverted to its mechanical form and now stood quietly to the side. Chapter 32. Marketing Strategies for the Portable Spirit Tool Series. I'm back. A steady, deep voice sounded from outside the door. A man with pale purple hair pushed it open and stepped in. His muscles were like forged steel, and his striking violet eyes scanned the room before settling on the young man at the table. A faint smile softened his expression. "My lord, Purple Armor has not failed you." Purple Armor laughed loudly, then dropped to one knee and reported, "Based on past dealings with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Merchant Guild, the portable retractable cannon is selling well." Chen Zhou took a calm sip of tea and motioned for him to sit. He set the cup down, fingers tapping the tabletop as his eyes narrowed slightly. "No trouble while you were out?" Purple Armor grinned, a sunny grin that somehow felt cold at the edges. "Only a few petty thieves. Their greed was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. I cleaned them up." Chen Zhou chuckled without comment. Purple Armor had been appointed to handle finances and act as a deterrent in place of Lanjia, who was still wanted. Chen Zhou hadn't expected Purple Armor to be so uncompromising. When he met crooked merchants or lawbreakers, he settled things directly. There was nothing wrong with that. Sometimes a firm hand produced fast results. "How's business otherwise?" Purple Armor smiled, rose, and moved to the window. Sunlight caught his light purple hair, making it almost luminous. "My lord, lately the guild has been swamped, especially for the new portable retractable cannon. There have already been pre-orders. The market response is better than I expected." Chen Zhou nodded. Donghai City hugged the East Sea. With sea transport and trade, its economy was one of the strongest in the Sun Moon Federation. That kind of boom attracted attention. The sudden appearance of these new goods at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Merchant Guild couldn't go unnoticed. Or rather, the guild never intended to hide anything from Chen Zhou in the first place. Portable machine guns, portable defensive shields, now the portable retractable cannon. These inventions were starting to rewrite what people thought spirit tools could be, and they drew the eyes of every major power. Soul guidance technology in this world was warped. As the old saying goes, technology is the primary productive force. Only with growing productive power can rare geniuses be given the fertile ground to imagine and realize the impossible. Civilizations that stand at the peaks of the galaxy all share that broad, cumulative development that supports leaps of innovation. But this world had always pushed soul guidance technology toward war. Even in a relatively peaceful era, research followed martial directions. Productive, everyday applications of soul guidance technology were nearly non-existent. Spirit masters were a minority. Those capable of wielding powerful spirit tools were rarer still. If development catered to that small elite, progress would crawl, inching forward only through years of grinding effort. Chen Zhou found that both absurd and tragic. Still, he wasn't planning to save the world. Why should he? His past life had given him countless resources, and he had never stopped pursuing forbidden alchemy. On the road to truth, sacrifices were inevitable. If someone had to take them, why not him? He shook his head at his own sentimentality and steered his thoughts back to business. The portable spirit tool series that Chen Zhou had been promoting expanded the very concept of spirit tools. Bigger wasn't always better. Sometimes quantity changed quality. How many spirit masters existed? Far fewer than ordinary mortals. So why were mortals treated as cannon fodder? Why not arm mortal armies? Why must mortal soldiers be led like the White Tiger Duke 10,000 years past, brains filled with porridge, sending flesh and blood troops to be pulverized by spirit masters and spirit tool cannons? The portable series satisfied the warped thinking of those who viewed soul guidance technology as purely a military tool, and it also caught the attention of a particular power along the East Sea coast, the Sun-Moon Federation. If any faction had the most mortals, it was the Sun-Moon Federation. What was the greatest utility of the portable series? Ease of use, simple operation, low cost. With a power supply, even mortals could be outfitted to match a spirit grandmaster in capability. In an instant, the lower bound of mortal power would jump. Of course, that excited the Federation elders. They had been dominated by Shrek, by Heaven Dew, by Star Luo for too long. If massed mortal armies could be equipped with offensive, concealment, defensive gear, and mobile cannon platforms, they could retake whole continents and soon even plot against Shrek Academy. Chen Zhou had no intention of helping the Sun-Moon Federation. Why should he? He had no ties to them. Controlling the portable spirit tools at Spirit Grandmaster level was his own self-preservation. It drew money while keeping him off the radar of the true players. Most importantly, the portable tools could be copied, and energy amethysts, even if he monopolized them, were not the only power source. Chen Zhou had added certain alchemical elements and unique energy patterns to parts of his designs. Harmless additions, missing them only meant a little less efficiency. Not using energy amethysts made a device slightly worse. This was Chen Zhou's subtle superiority. Monopolize energy, but not really. Create technology, but don't lock everyone out. That way, anyone thinking of moving against him would realize it would cause more harm than good. With Lanjia and purple armor protecting him, Chen Zhou felt nearly untouchable, unless a titled Douluo decided to intervene. My lord, why do you think our products still sell so well, even though there are many copies on the market? Purple armor asked, puzzled. A few days earlier, when he delivered goods, the heads of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Guild had snubbed him. If not for Chen Zhou's restraint, he'd have taught them a lesson. But in just a few days, their attitude had flipped to fawning. Chen Zhou smiled and shook his head. A little off here, a little off there, and the power output is slightly different. He set his teacup down and said, "Do you really think users can't tell the difference between quality and shoddy copies?" Thanks to Dragon Moon for the reward, and to all the readers for their support. Tomorrow is the last day of the trial period. Promotion looks bleak, but I want to use these last days to gather some favorites so the post-listing data looks better. To thank Dragon Moon and every reader, tomorrow, Tuesday, I'll release a burst of chapters, at least 4 to start. Everyone, charge. Chapter 33. Make the Armor Beast Tribe Great Again. Accumulate slowly, and you'll naturally fall behind, Chen Zhou said. But if we don't expand production capacity, the market leaves room for others to snatch a share. We give them a piece of the pie, Purple Armor replied, and under shared interests, they'll let us keep researching and pioneering the portable soul guidance technology. Chen Zhou smiled, finishing the tea in his cup. Purple Armor couldn't help but praise. My lord, your insight is unmatched. You read and steer people like a master puppeteer. His respect for Chen Zhou deepened as he gazed out at the blue sky and drifting clouds, feeling the stir of coming changes. But if we keep this up, it will draw the attention of other major powers. The ironclad man's playful demeanor vanished, his voice grew grave. If those people move against us, what's the plan? Chen Zhou's smile didn't fade, but his eyes sharpened. He knew exactly whom Purple Armor meant, the greedy, self-righteous family forces who thought they could dictate terms. If they dare to probe, we'll teach them that sometimes when you reach out a hand, it can get cut off. The strong make the rules of this world. I'm just using them. My lord is absolutely right. The red light in Purple Armor's eyes flared. His tower-like frame trembled slightly. Dealing with schemers with 100 tricks made him itch to use force. Purple Armor, Chen Zhou warned. Don't be rash. Playing along is only a temporary measure. At that moment, Lanjia came downstairs. With little else to do at home, he spent his time researching new spirit tools with Chen Zhou. Chen Zhou handled independent development. Lanjia fused Armor Beast Tribe technology with Soul Guidance technology and managed the production line. Although Purple Armor's combat power exceeded Lanjia's, as the Armor Beast Tribe strategist, he still respected Lanjia. If it didn't require thinking, he preferred to let others plan. Lanjia, how much profound iron could our current funds buy? Chen Zhou asked. Earlier, using an alchemy exchange, Chen Zhou had covertly converted the profound iron on Lanjia's body into tougher, more expensive cold iron, allowing Lanjia to fight at true strength. Quality over quantity. For Armor Beast Tribe cadres, inferior resources keep them from reaching their full potential. Ordinary members are less demanding, but the better the materials, the stronger the beasts created. And with enough resources, cadres not previously stored in the War King token might even appear. The plan was straightforward. Build a production line in the barren world inside the War King token, invest profound iron, wait for the Armor Beast models to be manufactured, and then use original energy amethysts to awaken them. After deducting the cost of orders that have to be delivered, if we spend everything we have, we can buy roughly 3,000 caddies of profound iron, Lanjia reported, flipping through the ledger. But if we build a production line, one line alone will eat up a third of the funds, leaving only enough profound iron to manufacture fewer than 100 armor beasts. So how do you want to arrange it? Chen Zhou asked. Chen Zhou considered. The logical prerequisite for expanding influence was manpower, so stockpiling profound iron made sense. Otherwise, perceptive people would notice demand and prices would surge. He looked toward the window. East Sea City's skyline and the bustling commerce below filled him with a sense of opportunity. I suggest we use these funds to set up a production line for the current portable spirit tool model, boost output to secure a share of the portable spirit tool market, and speed up capital recovery. Lanjia's plan was simple. First, establish sufficient market influence and accumulate resources, then reveal the Armor Beast Tribe all at once to maximize impact and mystique. Chen Zhou nodded. He knew expanding influence carried risks, but opportunity and profit had to be weighed. He didn't intend to lose a chance that could elevate them. All right, we'll follow Lanjia's suggestion, Chen Zhou decided. Purple Armor rose. My lord, since the plan's set, I'll get to it. How should we handle anyone who tries to interfere with our business? Slowly. No rush. Chen Zhou's smile was faint, a cunning glint in his eyes. We'll leak some misinformation, make those Sun Moon Federation families think pushing us will derail their own development. My lord is resourceful, Purple Armor agreed, and in the coming period, we mustn't let other forces detect our true intentions. I'll use this time to research new spirit tools further, and through various channels push our products into a broader market, Chen Zhou said. Understood. Purple Armor's grin turned serious. He looked at Chen Zhou with quiet admiration for his calm in critical moments. Beep, beep, beep. Chen Zhou glanced at the sound, his communication spirit tool. It was Dr. Long's number. He listened patiently, then set the device down. Proceed according to plan. It's time for me to show up at East Sea Academy, he told Lanjia and Purple Armor. That will rule me out as the man behind the scenes. You two follow the overall plan. Don't be overcautious. If anyone dares to move against us, strike them like thunder. Purple Armor and Lanjia nodded, steel in their eyes. Chen Zhou's plan had reached a decisive stage. Anyone who tried to block them would suffer the consequences. The Armor Beast Tribe was about to rise. Anyone who stood in their way now would not be spared. My lord, rest assured, we'll act as planned and won't let anyone interfere with your arrangements, Lanjia said, his voice firm. Chen Zhou stood, smoothed his robes, and prepared to go to East Sea Academy. He had been absent from the academy for a while. Continuing to hide would invite suspicion. East Sea Academy, as the city's top school, attracted attention from many factions. He had to be seen. Purple Armor, Lanjia, continue with the plan. I'm heading to the academy, he said, and left the room. Outside, sunlight warmed his face. He inhaled the fresh air, feeling the moments quiet before the coming storm, and began plotting his next moves. Make the Armor Beast Tribe great again. Chapter 34. Zero class established. After a long-awaited breakfast in the EC Academy cafeteria, Chen Zhou had barely stepped into his classroom when a notice arrived calling all first-year classes to the training ground. He knew what it meant and said nothing. Calmly following behind the first-year Class 1 lineup, he idly pulled a book on the precise manufacture of spirit tools from his bag and began to read. Zhang Yangzi wasn't among the first-year Class 1 students, and Wang Jingxi wore a bandage on his hand. Clearly, the promotion match had left some of the younger students badly hurt. When the last class, first-year Class 5, arrived, the front of the formation held an unexpected sight: Dean Long Hengshu, and beside him, President Yu Zhen in person. After Long Hengshu bowed slightly to the president, he announced loudly, "We've called this temporary first-year meeting to make two announcements. First, given this year's special circumstances, the winning class will not continue in subsequent promotion matches. The first-year rankings will be adjusted according to the promotion match results. The original first-year Class 5 will be moved to first-year Class 1, and the other classes will shift accordingly." The crowd exploded. Those who had just been promoted to first-year Class 1 reacted particularly strongly. Losing the chance to continue in promotion matches meant losing potential rewards from skipping grades, a major disappointment. Long Hengshu raised a hand to quiet them and went on. Given the excellent performance of the newly promoted first-year Class 1, the Academy has decided to reward every student in that class with one A-grade meal per day for this semester. That statement turned uproar into cheers. A-grade meals were not just tasty, they were powerful tonics that aided cultivation. For most families, such meals were a luxury. Having them provided free for a whole semester was an enormous benefit. Nearby, Ye Yingluo, recently transferred to be homeroom teacher of first-year Class 2, looked increasingly sullen. Long Hengshu continued. Furthermore, the Academy Board has decided to establish a pilot first-year class to concentrate the most outstanding students. This class will be designated First-Year Zero Class, with teacher Wu Jiangkong as homeroom teacher. Zero-class students will be selected from current classes. The students chosen so far are Tang Wulin, Xie Xie, and Gu Yue from first-year Class 1, and Zhang Yangzi, Wang Jingxi, Wei Xiaofeng, and Chen Zhou from first-year Class 2. If other students in this grade show comparable excellence in the future, they may also be invited to join. Zero class? No one at EC Academy had ever heard of such a thing. A pilot first-year class, headed by Wu Jiangkong. This was unprecedented. Chen Zhou closed his book and looked toward Wu Jiangkong at the front of the line, his eyes calm as a still lake. Tang Wulin and the other two from Class 1, and Wang Jingxi and Wei Xiaofeng from Class 2, all looked surprised. Their gazes met, betraying the shock. Wei Xiaofeng's face was twisted with disgust and hatred, while Wang Jinxi's eyes lingered on Tang Wulin with a complicated expression. It was clear that all of them, unlike Chen Zhou, hadn't been informed privately by Long Hengshu. They were hearing it in public. Chen Zhou's personal standing with the dean was obvious. Wu Jiangkong's face remained expressionless, but he glanced once toward Chen Zhou. Their eyes met. Chen Zhou gave a faint, almost imperceptible smile. Wu Jiangkong said nothing more. Before anything else could happen, Long Hengshu cleared his throat and announced another matter sternly. In yesterday's promotion match, students from first-year Class 1 and first-year Class 2 failed to uphold the principle of friendship first, competition second. As a result, 3 students were seriously injured. We hereby issue a formal criticism to the students who participated and strip them of any rewards they might have received as a warning to others. Stripping rewards for an internal promotion match, while Long Hengshu's words sounded severe, the punishment was mainly for show. It was a public reprimand meant to set an example. "President, would you like to say a few words?" Long Hengshu asked quietly, turning to Yu Zhen. Yu Zhen nodded and addressed the gathered students with no pretense of warmth. "You must be wondering why Zero Class was created. The students selected have outstripped their peers in individual ability. If they remain in regular classes, their talents will be buried. This is meant to prevent that. I hope more of you will strive to reach that level and join Zero Class, so you can become the top talents of EC Academy." He paused, then dismissed the rest. "Homeroom teachers, return to your classes." Long Hengshu will temporarily act as homeroom teacher for first-year Class 1 until a permanent teacher is appointed. Teacher Wu Jiankong and the students chosen for first-year 0 class, please remain. One by one, amid surprise and envy, the 5 first-year classes marched back to their classrooms. Only the president, Wu Jiankong, and the newly chosen 0 class students lingered on the training ground. Children, come here, Yu Zhen called. Though reluctant, Tang Wulin, Xie, Gu Yue, Wang Jinxi, and Wei Xiaofeng stepped forward. In front of the president, even Wei Xiaofeng dared not be boastful, but the atmosphere between those students and the administration was strained. Chen Zhou, however, did not step forward. Instead, he moved a few paces closer to Wu Jiankong and tilted his head. "Teacher Wu," he said softly, "please guide me from now on, all right?" Wu Jiankong glanced at him, emitted a low, annoyed huff, but did not ignore the request. Chen Zhou had been the first to make the concession. No matter his temperament, Wu Jiankong would not harshly rebuke a child. "If you truly want to learn, I will teach you," he replied. Chen Zhou shrugged, unmoved by the coldness, and offered no more words. Yu Zhen ignored the exchange. His attention was fixed on the 5 students before him. His face darkened. "You lot act as if you're extraordinary just because you stand out from your peers. Look what you've become. 2 of you with broken arms, another with a broken leg back in the classroom." His voice was sharp. The 5 were taken aback. No one expected such immediate scolding from the president. Yu Zhen continued, his tone even colder. "I've already explained the purpose of 0 class, to prevent your development from being delayed. Put away your arrogance and behave yourselves, or the academy won't be so polite. If something like yesterday happens again, expect severe disciplinary action. Don't delude yourselves into thinking talent alone is enough. The world is full of geniuses, and many die young. For a genius to become a true outstanding talent, he must outwork ordinary people by far. Only then can he live up to his ability. Do you understand?" "Understood," they answered, voices small under the president's pressure. Yu Zhen's presence made even the bravest of them feel they could barely raise their eyes. He reached into his folder, slid out a form, and said, "Sign this agreement." Chapter 35. Today's topic is Mecha. Yu Zhen flicked his wrist, and a stack of written papers appeared in his hand. He handed them to the 5 students. They took the papers and pens without thinking. Tang Wulin glanced down. The top of the page read agreement in bold characters. The text stated, in essence, "I, Chai, voluntarily sign this agreement with East Sea Academy and will not transfer schools before completing my junior and senior studies at the Intermediate Academy." The 5 exchanged puzzled looks. "What's this about?" Xie asked timidly. "Shouldn't we discuss this with our families first?" Yu Zhen's eyes barely moved. "You can. Go home and discuss it. But if you don't sign, you won't be in 0 class. I'm busy. I won't wait." Tang Wulin had already signed. For him, the agreement changed nothing. East Sea Academy was the only place he could imagine studying. Having once been written off as trash, Tang saw the Academy's promise of preferential resources as a gift he couldn't refuse. Gu Yu signed right after him. Seeing that 2 others had already committed, Shi quietly followed. Wang Jingxi signed as well. Only Wei Xiaofeng hesitated. "Dean," Wei said, uneasy, "isn't it better to talk this over with my family? They might want me to transfer to a better school later." Yu Zhen nodded once. "Everyone has their own plans. You can go back to Class 2 if you wish. First grade 0 class will be 5 students." With that, he took the agreement back from Wei Xiaofeng's hand and waved him off. Wei bowed and left for the teaching building, a complex expression lingering on his face. He didn't take his signature back, but the doubt was there. Watching everything unfold, Chen Zhou looked back and forth with a puzzled expression and nudged Wu Jiankong with his elbow. "Why didn't I get one?" he asked. Wu Jiankong harumphed. "They don't need to give you one." He sounded irritated. "They can already meet your conditions. Why would they give you another concession?" Chen's smile widened. He'd expected as much. As long as Chen Zhou stayed at East Sea Academy, Yu Zhen didn't need to pressure him. Chen was already a major asset. His talent, his intelligence, and his unique grasp of spirit tools made the Academy administrators place high hopes on him. Chen accepted that advantage. He had reasons to remain. Because he had promised Long Hengshu, and because it suited Chen Zhou to keep attention focused in the right direction, he agreed to spend the night at the academy. Long Hengshu, flattered, prepared everything Chen might need and even let him pick his dorm. A true East Sea native, Long Hengshu was good at reading currents in East Sea City. Figures like Purple Armor, Lanjia, Chen Zhou, none of them were easy to handle, especially Chen Zhou, whose work on spirit tools and spirits made him stand out. After decades of teaching, Long Hengshu still had to admit Chen's learning speed was extraordinary. He absorbed theory like a sponge, taking the essence, discarding the dross, drawing inferences from a single example. If anyone claimed Chen lacked practical ability, Long Hengshu wouldn't believe it. Chen's respect for Long Hengshu was born not only from Lin Shimeng, but also from a lesson Long had once given: knowledge is power. That line had struck a chord. The next morning, first grade 0 class officially began. The classroom felt strangely empty, ordinary in appearance, but with only 5 students it seemed vast. Zhang Yangzi and Wang Jingxi sat together on one side. Tang Wulin and 2 others sat opposite, 5 clearly separated. Chen Zhou strolled in late, nodded to Tang Wulin, then headed to the back, set down the books he'd brought from the library, and immersed himself in reading. Outside the door, Wu Zhangkong's mouth twitched as he remembered Chen waving to him earlier. He drew a breath, hid his irritation behind a cold, indifferent face, and entered. Standing at the center of the room, he let his gaze sweep over the 5. "Starting today, your curriculum will change," he announced. All 5 turned to him, Zhang Yangzi and Wang Jingxi included, their admiration for the aloof, powerful man obvious. They had all seen Wu Zhangkong fight Guang Biao, who among youth didn't dream of being a hero. Wu scanned the room once more, doing his best to ignore the leisurely reader in the back. "Because of your current physical conditions, practical combat training will be postponed for a while. Once your injuries are healed, we'll resume hands-on lessons. For now, we'll begin with theory." He paused, then said flatly, "Today's topic is Mecha." Chapter 36, The Earth Spiritual Rune, Mecha. Hearing those 2 words, the 5 students exchanged glances. Zhang Ziang, taken aback, looked bewildered. "Teacher Wu," he blurted, "aren't mechas taught in the advanced division? We're only first-year students. Doesn't that seem too early?" By the traditional teaching system, the junior division of an intermediate Spirit Master Academy spent 6 years on fundamentals. Mecha studies only began in the advanced division. After advanced school, students picked specialized academies based on their direction. Only the best could graduate as true elites. They were still in the first year of the 6-year junior course, and already being introduced to mechas? It sounded like forcing seedlings to grow before their time. Wu Zhangkong had clearly anticipated this objection. He smiled and answered, "Your mecha class will only be an introduction, no hands-on instruction for now. So there won't be many lessons. Among you, who doesn't want to become a mecha master someday?" The 5 fell silent. Mecha masters were synonymous with power. They were the trend. Who wouldn't want a cool, powerful mecha? Seeing their reaction, Wu Zhangkong nodded. Then listened carefully. He glanced at Zhang Ziang, and the look sent a chill down Zhang Ziang's spine. He fell silent. Chen Zhou, however, felt no enthusiasm. In his previous world, external mechas had proven impractical, an ostentatious, resource-heavy solution that put the cart before the horse. On Douluo Star, the mecha concept was ancient. As far back as 10,000 years, during the Sun-Moon Empire, the Royal Academy had mecha-like projects. War drove much of the spirit tool development then, and early mechas were essentially instruments of war, comprehensive strength enhancers for spirit masters. Chen Zhou considered large mechas wasteful unless they were true mechanical life forms. In his prior life, dealing with mechanics in the Supreme Hall, mechanics used a unique power called magnetic energy, which could instantly activate countless machines. What looked like mechas were actually modular war fortresses. Every part packed with powerful modules and functions, deployable to crush most same-rank opponents. But after such a battle, the mechanic would be nearly bankrupt. That was why alchemists, mechanics, and sorcerers were nicknamed the Supreme 3 Musketeers, powerful but expensive. So Chen Zhou wasn't impressed by mechas on Douluo Star. Still, he treated the lecture as useful background and listened while he read his spirit toolbook. Wu Zhangkong spoke eloquently about the history of mecha development, then shifted to a new concept: battle armor. Battle armor? The five had never heard the term before. Chen Zhou was only half interested. He couldn't help shifting his gaze from the book to the teacher. Wu Zhangkong noticed and gave a faint smile. True powerhouses don't simply make their bodies bigger, he said. Mechas are for amplification, not for becoming larger targets. So high-level mecha research has focused on miniaturization. When they're small enough to be worn like armor, they're called battle armor. Only spirit masters equipped with battle armor can be considered true powerhouses. Only then can a spirit and a mecha be perfectly integrated, yielding tremendous combat strength. Chen Zhou snorted inwardly. Battle armor sounded like glorified alchemical equipment, special attributes that amplify when worn on the body. Call it mecha affinity and make it grand, and some would be impressed. He lost interest and returned to his book, resuming the heaven and earth refining meditation method. As Wu Zhangkong continued, Chen Zhou's mental force expanded like an ocean. One spiritual rune after another took shape under his concentrated effort. Engraving the water spiritual rune first had paid off. The Sea of Spirit now behaved like an ocean, which shortened the time needed to carve subsequent runes. With such a vast mental reservoir, wind, fire, or earth runes would come much easier. He considered the elemental roles. Wind was formless and ubiquitous, the lightest force between heaven and earth, representing freedom and change. In alchemy, wind stood for transmission, the quickest pathway for moving matter or energy. Fire was fierce and consuming, a symbol of destruction and rebirth. In alchemy, it stood for transformation, the direct force of change. Earth, heavy and stable, symbolized foundation and support. In alchemy, it represented balance, the most solid basis for both matter and energy. The next rune should be earth. Only by engraving the earth spiritual rune could his mental world truly stabilize, providing the solid support needed before completing wind and fire. Chen Zhou closed his eyes and dove into the Sea of Spirit. In that boundless blue, the faintly glowing water spiritual rune drifted gently. He slowly condensed his mental force and began to outline the contours of the earth spiritual rune. Chapter 37. Are we still fighting? Every stroke and line carved a deep, solid trench through his sea of mental force. Chen Zhou's mental power was like the earth, steady and massive, gradually constructing each section of the earth spiritual rune. Time slipped by without him noticing. In Chen Zhou's mental world, one earth yellow rune after another was being inscribed onto the core, each one swallowing his mental force like a whale gulps water. He only stopped when nearly half of his sea of mental force had been consumed. Even then, less than 1% of the world's core had been engraved. The road ahead was long. He would just have to grind through it slowly. The water element had taken 3 years. Surely, Earth wouldn't take that long, right? He came back to the classroom as Teacher Wu finished the mech introduction lecture. For a moment, Chen Zhou considered whether to return to the dorm for sleep or go back to his luxurious house and lie there like a corpse. Teacher Wu's voice carried across the room. Class dismissed for today. Next, practical combat training. Tang Wulin. The teacher's tone was cool. Tang Wulin froze mid-motion. He'd known his on-stage performance had doubtless disappointed Teacher Wu. He stood shaking, waiting. Move all the desks to the sides and clear the middle. We'll conduct practical combat training right here. Here? Wouldn't spirit abilities cause damage? Tang Wulin and the others shared the same concern, but they did as told. They weren't expecting to carry everything themselves. Others helped move desks. Chen Zhou closed the book he hadn't finished, rose slowly, and walked toward the door. Teacher Wu, I'm leaving. He waved his hand and started out casually. Wait. Teacher Wu's voice stopped him, not with anger, but with an unusual calm. Chen Zhou paused at the door and turned his head without hurrying. Is something wrong? Teacher Wu narrowed his eyes. I remember your condition. If a student I teach can beat you, you'd attend classes dutifully, right? That's right. Chen Zhou nodded. Tang Wulin and 2 others looked puzzled listening to the exchange. Zhang Ziyang and Wang Jinshi barely blinked. After all, in Class 1, Chen Zhou had a reputation for selective attendance. He came to lectures that interested him and skipped those that didn't. Still, his grades had always been at the top. Zhang Ziyang and Wang Jinshi exchanged looks, firm, unconcerned. If someone wanted to fight Chen Zhou, let them have their chance. They wouldn't be the ones to step up. So Tang Wulin will be your opponent? Teacher Wu asked, pointing to the boy who was still moving chairs. Tang Wulin looked up sharply and answered, "Sure." Chen Zhou shrugged, indifferent. For a moment his expression flattened into that calm, still surface look that kept others at a distance. "Tang Wulin, come here." Tang Wulin wiped his hands and stepped in front of Teacher Wu, eyes flicking toward Chen Zhou with a mix of anticipation and nervousness. Teacher Wu didn't immediately pit Tang Wulin against Chen Zhou. Instead, he questioned him, cold and direct. "How do you assess your performance in yesterday's match?" Tang Wulin hesitated, then said, "We were too eager for quick results. We're classmates. We shouldn't have used such heavy hands. We should have known when to stop." Teacher Wu waved the remark away. "I'm not asking about that. How did you feel during the fight? How do you evaluate your performance?" "We were chaotic at times," Tang Wulin admitted. "It was our first time seeing the opponent's abilities. We got flustered. Our coordination wasn't good. There was cooperation, but it wasn't smooth enough." Teacher Wu's expression hardened. "Chaotic? It was more than chaotic. It was a complete mess." The words hit the 5 students like a cold slap. As members of the Academy's specially approved Zero class, they were among the first-year elite. None of them expected such a harsh assessment. Teacher Wu turned his gaze sharp as a blade. "Frankly, I'm very disappointed. You've trained with me for 3 months. Your coordination should be practiced by now. But from the very start of the match, you squandered your advantages. Shishi's arm was broken, and he brought it on himself." Shishi's face tightened. Teacher Wu didn't stop there. "Do you think breaking through to 2-ring makes you invincible? You dashed out to solo without regard for the team? Do you still remember what a team is?" Then he looked at Tang Wulin. "I made you captain because you're steady. You didn't stop him. You didn't coordinate team combat. That's dereliction of duty. And your own deployment was a mess. You never showed the strengths of your spirit, just brute force." Tang Wulin had no answer. He couldn't explain that his strength had surged unexpectedly after absorbing the Golden Dragon King's essence, that his Blue-Silver Emperor had mutated, and he felt unfamiliar with his own abilities. That would only sound like an excuse. Teacher Wu shifted his glare to Guyu. "I put you in as the adhesive, the one who holds the team together, but you showed favoritism in the fight, which seriously damaged coordination." "Favoritism?" Tang Wulin blinked. Shishi's expression turned peculiar too. It was true. From the start, Guyue had hovered around Tang Wulin, and her outburst had been because he was the one hurt. Shishi had been largely ignored. With her long-range abilities, she should have been covering the whole field. Teacher Wu moved his critique to Zhang Xiang and Wang Jinshi. "Your team's problems were obvious as well. Wei Xiaofeng made similar mistakes to Xie Shi and worse. Your initial lack of participation exposed arrogance. Arrogance in front of an enemy is a fast track to self-destruction. Among the 3 of you, Wang Jinshi performed relatively well. Even though he was suppressed by Tang Wulin, he completed his tasks diligently." As Teacher Wu laid out the faults, Chen Zhou reached out calmly to interrupt, voice flat and distant. "So, are we still fighting?" Chapter 38, Extreme and True. Wu Zhangkong's brow tightened slightly when Chen Zhou interrupted him, but he quickly recovered his composure. He looked at Chen Zhou, his tone cold. "Since you're so eager, then begin." Chen Zhou shrugged and walked slowly to the center of the classroom. His gaze swept over Tang Wulin. "Come on," he said flatly. "Show me what you've got." Tang Wulin took a deep breath. A spark of fighting spirit lit his eyes. Since Red Mountain Academy, he had set his sights on Chen Zhou. He wanted to become like him. Chen Zhou often seemed lazy, but his strength was unfathomable. A chance to spar with him was rare. "Chen Zhou, I've dreamed of fighting you more than once," Tang Wulin admitted. "Then enlighten me," Chen Zhou replied. Tang Wulin bowed slightly and straightened, beginning to circulate his spirit power. Chen Zhou watched without expression. Wu Zhangkong stepped aside, arms crossed, eyes cold. The other students retreated to the edges of the room to give them space. "Begin," Wu Zhangkong ordered. At once, Tang Wulin attacked. He unleashed the Golden Dragon Claw, his technique granted by the awakening of the Golden Dragon King bloodline. The 5-fingered Golden Claw manifested, and the Zero-class students watched with rapt attention, especially Wang Jingxi and Gu Yuo, who whose expressions grew complicated as they stared at the golden strike. Alchemy, Chen Zhou said softly. Mysterious fluctuations answered him, like water ripples rolling through the space before Chen Zhou. The tremendous force behind Tang Wulin's golden dragon claw barely made a ripple before those undulating surfaces, then disappeared as if a mudox had plunged into the sea. Tang Wulin's pupils shrank. Shock filled him. His blow, not even full power, but enough to smash a large rock, had failed to disturb Chen Zhou at all. "Is this your strength?" Chen Zhou asked, his voice edged with disappointment. Tang Wulin ground his teeth. He had known Chen Zhou was strong, but he hadn't expected such a gulf. "Again," he roared, spirit power surging wildly. The golden dragon claw condensed again, sharper and faster this time. Chen Zhou still stood with his arms folded, unbothered. At some point, a tough length of blue-silver grass had grown at his feet, attempting to bind his ankles. "All brawn, no finesse," Chen Zhou remarked, and with a wave, he dispersed the water ripples. Instead of retreating, he stepped forward, his hands moving with an embracing, pulling motion. The Golden Dragon King bloodline could not take hold. Chen Zhou deflected the attack instantly. His fists hid strikes within palms, palms within fists. He landed a seemingly slow but actually lightning-quick palm to Tang Wulin's chest. Tang Wulin felt a soft, irresistible force hit him and was flung back, slamming hard into the classroom wall. Tang Wulin slid down the wall, face pale. He struggled to his feet, eyes flashing with shock and unwillingness. "Wulin!" Guyo and Shixie sprang up, ready to rush forward, but a single look from Teacher Wu kept them rooted in place. "Finish," Chen Zhou said, shaking his head. "I'm leaving." He turned and walked out of the classroom, leaving a thoughtful Wu Jiankong and a resentful Tang Wulin, and a roomful of stunned zero-class students in his wake. What is wrong with an alchemist knowing some martial arts? A martial artist who had once guarded the Supreme Hall's Forbidden Zone had told Chen Zhou that martial confrontations at the highest levels always end the same way. When martial artists gather their personal divine force and reach the pinnacle, exchanges can stretch for months before a victor is decided. Fists, palms, legs, fingers, swords, spears, staffs, axes, halberds, hooks, maces. By the time someone reaches the ultimate level of heaven's will embodied, no single technique inherently outclasses another. At that point, victory comes down to state of mind, accumulated experience, and artistic conception. Who can remain composed, who can advance faster, who can dominate in the domain and expose an opponent's flaw to decide everything in a single strike. Whether martial artist, alchemist, mage, or mechanist, at the summit every path converges on the same tests, steps toward what they call the extreme and the true. Chen Zhou walked down the corridor, but his thoughts did not linger on the skirmish. His gaze seemed to extend through time and space, back to the Supreme Hall he had once traversed. Every inch of land and every wisp of air there had imprinted infinite wisdom and power into him. He had fought countless strong opponents and sparred with those at the peak. Those experiences had been etched into his soul and were the source of his strength. "Still too weak," he murmured, faint regret in his voice. He wasn't concerned with Tang Wulin's abilities or with other people's opinions. His focus was always the same, the path toward the extreme and the true. Water and earth spirit elements might be the cornerstones of his cultivation, but the ultimate goal was the elusive, almost unreachable truth that few ever touch. With that in mind, his silhouette faded down the corridor. The atmosphere in the classroom was heavy. Wu Jiankong looked at the fallen Tang Wulin and said coldly, "Now do you understand the gap between you and him?" Tang Wulin fell silent for a moment before lifting his head, his eyes burning with resolve. "I understand, Teacher Wu. I'll work harder. I won't disappoint you again." Wu Jiankong's voice softened a fraction. "Good, but know this. Chen Zhou's strength goes far beyond what you just saw. His realm is beyond what you can imagine. To catch him, you'll have to put in much more effort." The others were stunned. They had known Chen Zhou was powerful, but none had expected it to be so terrifying. Shixie spoke up, unable to hold back. "Teacher Wu, how strong is Chen Zhou exactly?" Wu Jiankong glanced at him, expression indifferent. "I don't know his exact level, but if your approach to combat stays the way it is now, he won't even need to use his full strength." Shixie's face hardened as frustration welled inside him. He had thought his efforts were enough. He'd even broken through to two-ring Spirit Master. But in front of Chen Zhou, he felt so exposed. Gu Yue looked after Chen Zhou with a complicated expression. Wang Jingxi and Zhang Yangzi exchanged knowing looks. They had seen Chen Zhou's prowess back in Class 1. He needed no spirit abilities. His physical combat alone was enough to best them. Note from the author, on the first day of serialization, 2 chapters will be released. Thanks to the support of so many readers recently, the author will continue with burst updates. As long as everyone keeps supporting, the bursts won't stop. Chapter 39, The Veteran Fisherman, Purple Armor. If it hadn't been for the new student announcement confirming his spirit was a purple crystal, they might easily have believed Chen Zhou was the fabled holy son of the body sect, if only that sect hadn't already declined. If my guess is right, Chen Zhou won't be attending Zero class anymore, Wu Jiankong said. He stepped up to the podium and wrote on the blackboard. The 5 members of Zero class read the 4 characters he left there. Challenge Chen Zhou. They swallowed hard. He once made a deal with me, Wu Jiankong continued, that any student I teach who can defeat him may claim my guidance. The coldness on his face didn't fade, but a trace of a smile surfaced. I never expected you to fulfill that agreement anytime soon. Maybe someday you will, but not yet. You're far from it. He watched the students closely. Provocation was the point. Among those chosen for Zero class, who wasn't a genius? Xie with twin spirits, Zhang Ziyang and Wang Jingxi with top-tier spirits able to fuse into a joint spirit skill, Gu Yue, whose elementalist spirit even surprised Wu Jiankong, and Tang Wulin, blessed by a unique bloodline. They'd all just witnessed the yawning gap between Tang Wulin and Chen Zhou. Still, how could these young prodigies accept being outclassed? Think of it as a benchmark, Wu Jiankong said. As long as that agreement stands, you may seek him out, challenge him, and learn your weaknesses. He made his intent clear. He didn't expect them to surpass Chen Zhou overnight, but he wanted them to aim for him and be driven by that standard. From now on, your training will intensify, he said. I'll tailor training plans to each of you. Don't hold back. Each of you will challenge Chen Zhou once a week and submit a written account of your shortcomings and reflections for my review. Tang Wulin and the others stiffened at those words. Wu Jiankong's training was infamous for its strictness. This sounded even harsher. Dismissed. Wu Jiankong waved his hand. Assemble at the training ground tomorrow morning at 6. They nodded and left. Tang Wulin lingered at the back, replaying the earlier fight in his head, the one hit that had shown him the chasm between him and Chen Zhou. He clenched his fists. Chen Zhou, I will catch up to you. Outside Donghai City, under the blistering sun, a tower-like figure in purple armor stood revealed, motionless as if waiting. Time's up, he murmured. Then his shoulders relaxed and a bloodthirsty smile split his face. With a thunderous stomp, he drove his foot into the ground, battle energy roaring outward. The aftershocks warped the air. Dust and shattered rocks sprayed from the impact. Little mouse hiding here, huh? There was a playful glint in his eyes. In an instant, his figure blurred. Purple light wrapped him like lightning, and an iron fist descended. The fist slammed into the ground with a deafening boom, splitting earth open in a jagged fissure. Dust billowed and stones scattered, but the target he'd aimed for wasn't there. Only a lingering afterimage remained, mocking the missed strike. Oh, interesting, he smiled. Excitement flashed across his face as he straightened and scanned the area like a hawk. Do you think you can escape? His voice was low and cold, carrying a natural authority. The sun glanced off his purple armor. He looked like a beast poised to strike. His ears twitched. He'd picked up the faintest movement. The smile curdled into a cold grin, and his right fist condensed with purple energy, crackling like a star about to go supernova. Found you! His shout cracked like thunder as he smashed his fist toward a void to his left. A metallic chime answered, and 2 purple mechas appeared as if from nowhere. So it's the Federation's little mice, he sneered, looking them up and down. Frost blue lights pulsed along their frames, and the Federation's emblem was stamped on their hulls. To him, they were just ants. Federation trash. Who sent you? You came to die. His tone was disdainful and amused. The 2 mechas didn't answer. They moved in perfect coordination, striking at once. The left unit spread its arms and formed two scorching energy spheres, hurling them at purple armor. The right leapt, blade drawn, an energy sword aiming for the armor's neck. Purple armor didn't have Lanjia's patience. With Chen Zhou's blessing, he was itching for a hunt. Fishing, huh? Who doesn't know how to fish? If they made a move, they should have prepared to die. His body blurred. He moved so fast the attacks couldn't catch him. Energy spheres and swords sliced through nothing but afterimages. Too slow. He appeared behind the right mecha like a wraith. His fist, crowned in condensed violet energy, struck the mecha's back with crushing force. The impact sent the machine spinning. Its metal shell tore and flailed under the pressure, sparks showering out as it tumbled and slammed to the ground in a mangled heap. Chapter 40. Mouse Hunt. The mech on the left adjusted its stance with lightning speed, forming energy spheres in its arms and firing them at purple armor. But purple armor's figure vanished again. The spheres missed. "Your speed is too slow." His voice came from above the mech's head, threaded with a cold smile. He appeared above the machine, his right leg arcing down as purple energy condensed in it like a thunder-forged axe. The blow struck the mech's helmet with devastating force. The helmet shattered, internal circuits and mechanical components exposed as sparks showered out. The mech's head caved in, its whole frame listed and crashed to the ground with a dull thud. "Is this all the Federation's garbage can produce?" Purple Armor's voice dripped with disdain. He landed slowly, his armor glinting lavender in the sunlight like a predator who'd finished its hunt. The two mechs had been almost powerless to respond. Their attacks had seemed feeble against his speed and strength. Purple Armor's gaze swept the fallen machines. The smile at the corner of his mouth widened. He walked toward the mech that had been sent flying, each step heavy with an oppressive intent, as if death itself were approaching. He reached out and tore into the hull. His hands were like blade-tipped claws, ripping the chassis open and exposing the spirit master inside. "Wait, I am..." The woman inside managed before Purple Armor's massive hand clamped over her face, leaving only terrified eyes visible. "I'm not interested in listening." A bloodthirsty smile crossed Purple Armor's face. He tightened his grip. Crack! A crisp sound of bone breaking echoed. The female spirit master's skull compressed like an eggshell under his hand. Blood and brain matter spattered, staining the mech beneath him. A bunch of little rats in the gutter. This was satisfying, Purple Armor murmured, exhilaration flushing through him. For days he had endured near-open stalking and blatant threats. If not for Chen Zhou's initial order to lie low, he would have started a full-on rampage in East Sea City long ago. Now, with Chen Zhou's new, more aggressive directive, he'd spent 4 days luring groups of different rats to various locations to hunt them down and vent his hatred. He began to turn toward East Sea City, but paused as if remembering something. "I almost forgot to clean up the traces." He extended his hand. Flesh and muscle shifted and reassembled into a precisely engineered mechanism. A massive cannon barrel formed and protruded from his arm. 2 deafening cannon blasts ripped the air. Boom, boom. The 2 ruined mechs were obliterated in a violent explosion, reduced to ash as flames roared up and a thick column of smoke rolled skyward. Purple Armor stood at the edge of the blast, his pale purple hair whipping in the shockwaves. The bloodthirsty smile lingered on his face as if the slaughter had been nothing more than a casual chore. "Cleanup complete," he said, then strode off toward the city, each step slow and assured like a well-fed beast returning to its territory. After he had gone some distance, the grass nearby shimmered with a subtle distortion. A figure crawled into view, chest heaving. Gasp, gasp, dead, dead. His companion, who'd been boasting not long before, had turned to dust in an instant. He pressed his grief and fury down because his spirit leaned toward stealth and had no way to take immediate revenge. He had to get a message out. He had to warn them. "Calling East Sea Legion. Calling East Sea Legion. This is Sly Rabbit. This is Sly Rabbit. Respond if you receive." Hands trembling, he fumbled a military communications spirit tool from his storage, adjusting the frequency as fast as he could. Static answered. The signal was being jammed. "Damn it," he muttered, cold sweat beading on his temple. This massacre had been premeditated. The enemy had prepared thoroughly, even cutting off communications. He forced himself to stay calm. Panic would be fatal. As an experienced scout, he knew what to do. He pulled out a small emergency beacon from his supplies, a short-range emitter unique to their recon unit. Its range was limited, but it was his only hope. He punched the activation. A faint blue light arced up from the device, cutting toward the clouds. Before it vanished, a ripple of purple energy struck from afar and hit the beacon dead on. The device exploded. Cold sweat poured down his back. So there was another little rat after all. A deep voice said from the distance, laden with killing intent and derisive amusement. Slowly, Purple Armor approached. His steps were measured, but each felt like pressure on the scout's chest. The armor shone under the sun. He moved like a predator, leisurely searching for its next prey. "You, how could you?" the scout whispered, voice cracking. He had used his most complete concealment, suppressed breathing, heartbeat nearly non-existent, yet he'd been found. The corner of Purple Armor's mouth lifted in a faint, cold smile. His gaze was sharp as an eagle's, penetrating disguises and striking at the heart. "Do you think your little tricks can fool me?" His voice was low and cold, unchallengeable. Purple Armor raised a hand and concentrated a sphere of purple energy at his fingertip. The energy coiled like a venomous snake, humming with a threat that made the scout's blood run cold. "No, don't," the scout stammered, instinctively retreating, but behind him was only empty grass, nowhere to hide. His concealment talent meant nothing here against absolute power. Mockery glinted in Purple Armor's eyes as he closed the distance, each step crushing whatever hope the scout had left. "Why must you be so greedy?" Purple Armor asked, tone like a razor. "Did you never consider that this outcome might occur?